sorry if my answers are a bit long. Just try to keep it short and simple. It's just sometimes tough to explain when you don't, you know, read enough. But we all do. It's just sometimes it can slip out of our minds. But anyways, go on. They worship at any time and day of the week. It really depends because some, even within the congregation, have work schedules or different other obligations that they have to put aside first in order to continue worshiping Jehovah before going to the Kingdom Hall. And that can be in matters of school nights, work days, etc. But for us, we hold it, well, we each hold it at different times. For us, it's 7:30s on Tuesday nights and 10 a.m. on Saturday mornings. But for some, like with my mother's congregation meetings, she actually meets Wednesday nights at 7:30. Every meeting is always at 7:30 at night, as well as on the weekends like Saturdays and Sundays. It could be either 10, 4, or 7 p.m. Now on the weekends, that's when they hold their different hours based on different schedules, as well as which meeting is most suitable for some, because not everybody can attend at the same time like before, unfortunately, because times have changed and gotten more rougher into where people are just on the go these days, which is not a bad thing. They have apps on the go now, which I like, not just food to go, but still you want to have a balanced view of things, like with time, for instance. You want to spend time for this and you want to make sure you have enough time for that. So we hold it at different times, like I mentioned. Mine's at 7:30s Tuesday nights, Saturday 10 a.m.s on Saturday mornings. My mother's is actually 7:30s on Wednesday nights and actually 10 a.m. on Sundays. It used to be a little earlier, like 9 or so. Well, no, actually a little later, like maybe 12 or 11:30. But anyways, times are different. Well, they're allowed to do everything. It's just that decisions and other things in our routine life is based on our conscience and what we choose to do. What we can do, like I said, we can do everything. We can actually hang out with friends. We can drive. We can swim. We can talk to people. We can even fly a jet plane if we want to. And most importantly, go out preaching. We can drink, of course. We can even dress however. It's just you want to do it in moderation. We're allowed to do that. We're not a strict religion, even though some people do think so. I believe it too, but not to an extent in where they're so strict. It's not like that. They're not really a strict religion. They're just giving us counsel and daily reminders of what we must do to please Jehovah God. Now, what we cannot do, and some brothers back in the past, rather if they were in the truth or before coming into the truth, is smoking. We're actually not allowed to do that because then we will be defiling our bodies, as well as not pleasing God. Unpleasing Jehovah is the most unwise choice you can ever make in life, because you don't want your maker and father to leave you, which he won't. He will never do. He might do at some point, but he'll still be there watching you, for you. And as long as you actually try hard to make the truth your own in ways of pleasing Jehovah God, he'll be there for you. And so what we're also not allowed to do is, we're really, well, this is not a law or a setback of rules, but this is something that we've been warned about. It's more of warnings. They're not really laws, they're warnings. Some are laws, like murdering. Of course, you don't want to do that. We're not allowed to murder because it's been written in the Ten Commandments. And even from the time of Christ, some of those commandments are still intact. So, yes, we're not allowed to smoke, kill people. We're also not allowed to watch certain entertainments that contain spiritism, violence, or any gross conduct like fornication, even though unfortunately some of us are guilty of, and I'll admit this because we're all imperfect humans. That's the only excuse we can make, but it's not to get out of anything at all. This is just to be honest with those who are striving to get the truth in their hearts, whether they're looking for it or not, like in Jesus' illustration of the sower who sleeps. The man who's a sower and sleeps. The sower who sleeps. I love that illustration. But yes, we could we can smoke, kill people, or actually watch entertainment that have those misconducts if we want to. Entertainment that has those gross conducts. But if we actually do certain things like that, it wouldn't be pleasing to Jehovah God, and it would be disobeying Him. So we have to be reminded of that. And what we're also not allowed to do is, well, this kind of touches people's hearts, rather in the right ways or in the most negative ways possible. But we're actually not supposed to associate with the world to an extent in where we just hang out with them without teaching them Bible knowledge. Sure, we can hang out with worldly people and teach them Bible knowledge. You just want to make sure that to them you're serious. And if they want to take in the knowledge of the truth, like you, my dear brother, who is taking in the knowledge of the truth seriously, then it's cool. But let's say if some of our other friends didn't take the truth so seriously. Maybe they were in the truth for a long time and left the truth, or maybe they're still in the world but have not made a decision yet. Until one day they decided not to take in the knowledge seriously. You know, what could happen is we might have to we might have to step back and actually meditate on this, because what if they're not going anywhere with it? We don't want to leave them, we want them to stay. It's just that cooperation is a very important step. An important rule actually when it comes to teamwork, especially when you're teaching somebody how to live by the truth. So yeah, we're not allowed to associate with anyone outside of Jehovah's organization unless if they've been friends with us for so long since childhood and grade school, and then when we come into the truth, all of a sudden we want to spread that knowledge to them. And if they take it, yes, we can still associate as long as we study with them, and most importantly, make sure they get baptized. That's when you can 100% associate with them. If not, then patience plays a vital role in that. You just have to wait until they think the time's right. You know, unfortunately, because we can't force people. But fortunately enough, we still have time before the end comes. So hopefully, all will be saved. If not, then maybe just a few compared to the thousands who's died in the past. But yeah, we're also not allowed to actually engage in any other activities that is not in line with Jehovah's organization, such as attending a sermon or service at church or any other clergy or basilicas in Christendom, because of the way how the bishops, priests, deacons, fathers, and so on forth, whoever is the one that gives the sermons, don't always give it according to the laws of the Bible, which is unfortunate. So it makes it really hard for those who are still attending to actually leave. But fortunately enough, at least they're making the effort to stick with Jehovah. So yeah, that's just one of the few things we're not allowed to do. Not that it's a force of nature, it's just that we still have free will. We just want to follow the guidance from the brothers based on what the Bible says in its scriptures inspired by Jehovah God. And sometimes information like that can be confusing at first when you're taking into the truth, especially if you're one who hasn't grown up in or nor around the truth. So that's pretty much it there. Well, two reasons. Well, just one, but it's two in one. It's two stories from the Bible, one from the Old Testament and the other from the New. It has celebrations of birthday accounts in the Bible in which two are not in line with God. In other words, it's recorded in the Bible, but the birthday celebrations that they held were not very pleasing. And even to this day, just the thought of it sounds a bit scary and gory. But yes, like for example, with the account of Joseph in Genesis, there was a king, I believe it was the Pharaoh, who was celebrating his birthday. Somebody died on that day. And with the celebration of Herod, with his own female family member actually dancing for him, I believe it was his daughter, she asked for the head of John the Baptist. And when he was brought forth, it wasn't on the next day that he was to be beheaded, it was on that same night that he was beheaded, on Herod's birthday. And these two leaders and kings were not worshippers of Jehovah at the time, nor did they ever become worshippers of Jehovah at all. At least from what I know so far, because it never mentioned them becoming worshippers in the biblical accounts. So that's why we don't celebrate birthdays. And also because if you ever read the book The Lord of Birthdays, as well as read upon it on the origin of birthdays, it's pretty scary. They're not as traditional as you might see them now today with the way how they celebrate them. So that's why. And also because most or some birthdays in the pagan cultural world, well, the way how they celebrated their birthdays was in honor of deities, which includes pagan gods and goddesses. So that's why we don't celebrate our own birthdays for that reason, for that matter as well. Well, with regards to any other holidays, Christmas is like the most important one in the world. It's probably like the most popular international holiday because it's celebrated all over the world each year. But the reason why we don't celebrate Christmas is, well, as regards to other holidays, but you only mentioned Christmas so far. So the reason why we don't celebrate Christmas is because of its pagan and unscriptural origins, in a way that how Christmas had its start in its celebrations in some countries, like in Scandinavia and in Ireland and Great Britain, for example, their ways were very unscriptural. The way how they started their Christmas celebration, I know that for Scandinavia, based on their Viking god worship, like of Thor and so much, they actually started with the campfire of the Yule log. And with the Druids from Ireland and Great Britain, they started with the mistletoe. That's just to give you a good, clear view of how some of these unscriptural pagan origins were brought into the celebration of Christmas, and how Christmas could have had its possible starts because of those. But like I said, it's an international holiday, so Christmas has many beginnings. But for the mistletoe, it had to do with magical powers, like the Druids believed. And with the kind of magic that they might have practiced back then, more of a worship service to the Lord of Darkness and to the sun god, it was very unscriptural. But as regards to other various celebrations like Saturnalia, it had to do with their goddess Saturn, or their god Saturn. Anyways, Saturnalia was in honor of the god Saturn, which is where the planet possibly might have probably got its name from. But yes, that's one of the reasons why we don't celebrate Christmas, and also because it's not mentioned in the Bible. Unless if you make that a vow, like in some devotional books put it. But in all, Christmas is not in the Bible, nor did Christ ever mention to have a celebration of my birthday with a nice tree or with whatever traditional customs that some Christians might have gone along with when Christ was alive or after he died. Now, it is unknown if they ever actually celebrated Christmas with any customs that they used back then, that they went along with in celebration to his memorial at the time of his livelihood, but it's possible that the celebrations with some Christians could have started after Christ's death. So that's why we don't celebrate Christmas. Oh, the reason why is because we don't vote because, like Jesus said, that he's no part of the world, and neither should his followers. That's what we're trying to imitate. We're trying to imitate Jesus' followers, and Jesus Christ himself, possibly, which is true. We do try to imitate Jesus and his followers in a way that's humble. In other words, we try to imitate them all with regards to political activities, such as voting. So, if we ever voted, we would be part of the world because the political systems running today, and even from the time of Christ and before, were all part of Satan's Satan's organization, at least from how they operated. But the real reason why is because we're not really part of this system. We're just temporary residents. Not to give anybody a wrong impression, it's just if you read in the Bible, it's actually true. Christ never voted. People wanted him to take office back in the Roman pagan world, but he refused because his only sole purpose was to preach the kingdom of God to others. Now, he could have taken that position, but that was all on him. It was his decision, and he decided not to. And the reason why we don't hold office is because, like I said, the political system is not from this world in the eyes of, in the eyes of Jehovah God. They're from this world in the eyes of Satan, because of the way how political leaders did take their leadership, but also because this political system is part of this world, and this world is under the influence of Satan. And the reason why we don't salute the flag in the Pledge of Allegiance is because if you actually read the book, the Britannica Americana or the Encyclopedia Americana, you'll actually see from secular authorities and writers, well, just writers of the book, those who made the book and were responsible for it, they'll even admit that even saluting to the flag is an act of worship. And we believe that because of the way how people stand up to the flag, like if it was their God, which in reality is not. So it's like if we're worshiping the flag. I mean, we can stand and all, but we want to make sure we don't put our hands on our chest, nor to clap after the Pledge of Allegiance or with the ceremonial openings. What do they call that ceremonial opening again when they sing songs about America?
I think it's the national anthem that you're talking about.
Yes, national anthem. So we want to stay standing if we don't want to be looked down by others. We can stand. You just want to do it in advance before they start saluting. Just don't put your hands to the chest and don't clap after the national anthem or whatsoever. Anything that has to do with the American system, that is. But that's why we don't salute the flag nor the Pledge of Allegiance, because the Pledge of Allegiance is of course your dedication of saluting the flag, and that alone there is idolatry. So sometimes we get in trouble for it, but hey, it's all for Jehovah. Hopefully everybody will see the same. Unfortunately, right now they're not seeing it eye to eye, but hopefully they'll see it. So that's why we don't vote, take office, nor salute the flag in pledges of allegiance. Well, it could be a yes or no answer, but I would have to say, with the name Jehovah's Witnesses himself, he is the founder. It's just that the name Jehovah's Witnesses didn't come into effect until 1931 when his successor, Judge B. Rutherford.
Joseph Rutherford.
Thank you. Yes, when he took over as the next chairman and successor of Charles Taze Russell, that's when he found the name Jehovah's Witnesses to be successful and intact to use, as in necessary, because of what Isaiah mentions, that you are what my witnesses. That's a possible reason to why he could have applied that name, but it's actually true. It's actually from the book of Isaiah. I have to read up on that scripture. I know it's in there. But anyways, I can't say that Charles Taze Russell is the founder of the name Jehovah's Witnesses himself, but he is the founder of all that they did back then to this day, back when they were called the International Bible Students. That, with the name International Students itself, is his foundation. It's proof that he has founded the International Bible Students, even though some of their methods and some of their teachings, as the years went by, they went through certain changes and had to change certain regulations because of deeper meaning in their studies. So I can say that Charles Taze Russell is the founder of the work, but with the name Jehovah's Witnesses, like I said, it didn't come into use until his successor started using it. So Uh, well, there's nothing I can really think about except just mention a few things that I did that I forgot to mention. Like another thing that we're not allowed to do is have girlfriends who are in the world. I mean, we could do that as long as they're willing to take the studies as well as the relationship seriously. There's nothing wrong with that. We just want to be very careful because sometimes that can lead us away from Jehovah God. And the same thing can happen to sisters too when they find a nice, handsome young man outside of Jehovah's organization. So you always want to be friends with such ones and not even think about becoming boyfriends or girlfriends with them unless they're willing to follow Jehovah's standards. So yeah, pretty much.